Hi, I'm Joanna Vicente, Executive Director and co-head of Tiff.
And I'm Cameron Bailey, Artistic Director and co-head of Tiff. As you join us today, we encourage you to reflect on the land that you're on, who the traditional keepers of the land are, what the treaty relationship is, or if it's unceded territory. We're located on the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit and the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, the Wendat, and the Haudenosaunee. The territory is within the lands protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant and is home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We're grateful to work on this land.
Thank you so much for joining us for the 45th Toronto International Film Festival. We're not the only ones celebrating a special anniversary this year. A few festival favorites have also reached important milestones, and we're bringing them back to you in our series, The Best of Tiff Reunions, presented by Bell.
From a 4K drive-in screening of Stanley Kubrick's Full Metal Jacket to the first ever TIFF People's Choice Award winner, Girlfriends, from director Claudia Weil. To help us celebrate, we're reuniting key members of the cast and crew virtually, like Aronofsky himself, to discuss Requiem for a Dream, which, it's hard to believe, turns 20 this year. Audiences are invited to join the conversation and watch the films along with us on Bell Media's Crave.
These great films are an example of cinema's power to push limits, to draw tears, spark laughter, and to bring us together. But in order for them to do all of these, they must be seen. And right now, TIFF is struggling to bring the life-changing experiences of film to audiences. As a not-for-profit organization, TIFF has been affected by the global health pandemic.
A few months ago, we launched our For the Love of Film Fund to ensure that we continue to bring these vital stories to you each September and year-round. If you're able, please visit tiff.net/loveoffilm to make a donation of any size. And know that just by purchasing a ticket, you're supporting us and helping to share the power of film.
A sincere thank you to our lead sponsor, Bell, and our major sponsors, RBC, L'Oréal Paris, and Visa, for their steadfast commitment, as well as our major public supporters, the Government of Ontario, Telefilm Canada, and the City of Toronto for their continued support.
And thank you all for supporting TIFF. We hope you enjoy your festival.
Welcome to Best of TIFF Reunions presented by Bell, reuniting creators and collaborators from now classic films that have screened at past editions of the festival and at TIFF Bell Lightbox year-round. My name is Janelle Riley, and it's my great pleasure to be your moderator today as we take a look back at 2015 People's Choice Award winner, Room. 5 years ago, at the 40th Annual Toronto International Film Festival, director Lenny Abramson captured the hearts and minds of viewers with his adaptation of Irish-Canadian author Emma Donoghue's harrowing novel, recounting the story of a mother and child escaping from captivity. Featuring Brie Larson and Jacob Tremblay in breakout starring roles, Room went on to win that year's coveted People's Choice Award, as voted by TIFF audiences. We're looking back at this audience favorite today, and we're thrilled to have a very special group joining us for the occasion. Co-stars Brie Larson and Jacob Tremblay, director Lenny Abramson, and author and screenwriter Emma Donoghue. A sincere thank you to our lead sponsor, Bell, for their continued support. And finally, a thank you to our audience for joining us. As an organization still impacted by COVID-19, TIFF needs the support of audiences so that we can continue to present films to future generations. And now I'd like to welcome the people of Room. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I've made no secret that this was my favorite film of that year. And I'm so happy so many people agreed with me because you went on to win the People's Choice Awards, which I understand, Brie, you were watching live when they announced the winner?
Yeah, you actually reminded me of this. I totally forgot. I was watching on my phone. I was streaming it on my tiny phone, and I was so stressed. I was in my kitchen and I had a blanket over me and I was like huddled. I had it propped up on like the burner on my stove. And I think the ceremony, I don't know how long it lasts, an hour or two. And I was just sitting there like waiting, lost my mind, screaming, so excited when we won. And the second I closed out of the window to text everybody, I realized that there had been an entire email thread And if I had just looked at my email before, I would have seen that we had won and I didn't need to sit through the whole live stream. And in fact, I was being asked if there was anybody I wanted to be in the thank you speech. For me, it was like the best possible way. I loved the experience that I had, but also just very classic.
That's amazing. And it's so hard to believe that it's been 5 years. I'm curious for each of you, what do you remember about that night that it premiered, seeing it with audiences and the way they responded? We can start with Lenny.
Hi, Janelle, and lovely to be here. I remember because we'd been to Telluride, which was the sort of first time the film had screened, and the first night there when it showed, it was this crazy storm. It was just this intense kind of torrential rain and a very odd sort of atmosphere. And there was generally a good feeling about the film, but the whole thing, I think because it was the first public screening, was just kind of a blur of kind of anxiety and strangeness for me. But then we went to Toronto and I was waiting, I remember in the wings when the screening was happening in the big theater. And there was just this sense of at the end, there was just this incredible sort of feeling of, I don't know, that something had really wonderful had happened in that auditorium, because I came out and there was just this massive, only, I'd never experienced that before, kind of standing ovation and a feeling of that the film had really connected with the audience in the way that I think all of us had felt, that we wanted it to. And that was just, it was one of the best. That TIFF screening was one of the best experiences of the whole journey with Room, because it was kind of the beginning. And it was the first time, for me, real life human beings who didn't know anything about the film had that kind of full on connection with it. And I just remember all of us, I think, being incredibly excited and there's always that relief that the thing you've spent so long working on hasn't just kind of disappeared into any of the many nooks and crannies that very good films can sometimes end in.
And Jacob, this was your first sort of lead role in a major motion picture. Did you think it was just like this?
Because I was about 8 during this, so I don't think I really, at the age, I don't think I really understood. I don't think I was really able to process how big of a deal this was. So now I look back at it, and I was just the luckiest boy in the world.
I remember going to the mixers and parties with you, and I was like, "Are you good?" At one point, I said, "Are you good?" And you said, "All I can see are legs."
It's true. I was very short at that time.
The best.
I've moved on to the hip now.
Oh, good. Oh, that's good. I'm happy to hear that.
Emma, your book of the same name came out in 2010, and Hollywood immediately took interest. But I understand you really avoided having conversations until you completed the screenplay. So what was it like for this whole journey, to accumulate in this massive screening that was so well received?
That screening in Toronto at TIFF was a high point of my life, right? Because as an Irish woman who'd been living in Canada, and it was my first film that ever got made. So to have an Irish company make this astonishing film in Canada, and for us to be the toast of the town in Toronto. And as the limo brought me and Chris up to the entrance, I passed my entire book club standing there. They'd rented a van to come to town. They'd been teasing me for years, saying, "Oh, if you ever make a film of it, we'll rent a van." My life was flashing before my eyes, but without having to die. Glorious evening.
Bree, you'd attended festivals before, but I have to imagine this one was very special.
No, this was very different. I mean, I was old enough to understand that it was like being sucked into a portal or something. I don't know how else to explain it. It was like, oh, everybody's looking at me differently now. And you felt there was a palpable momentum as well that was felt that is so rare. It's kind of like it's taking the experience that I hope all of us have experienced when we're in a theater experiencing a movie that deeply resonates with us. But then it's just because I guess there's so many screenings and so many people experiencing it, it's just more people are being spit out and kind of resonating with this thing, and we're all kind of moving forward together. And so it was a kickoff in a real way for something that, when I look back on it, was just so surreal, completely unknown, remarkably exciting. And I think the naivety that all of us had in it, because none of us had ever gone through anything remotely like it before, helped so much. Because I just think about how sweet it was, whether it was the Telluride screening where there was the storm and we were all just kind of sitting there huddled in this restaurant, and Jake had a chocolate milk and I had a glass of wine, and we were just like, what is going on? To just like all of the different booths and different places and different interviews we did during the Toronto Film Festival and then beyond, there was always the spirit of play, because we didn't know what we had to lose either. We were just like, I can't believe we got this far. This is crazy.
Not just that far, but the film went on to receive 4 Academy Award nominations. Brie won for Best Actress, of course. And you talked about how much the film resonated at the time, and I feel it still continues to resonate to this day. Has that, so I mean, I guess that's what you hope for, but has that sort of surprised you how much of an impact it's continued to have?
Yes, it has. And I still, it's such a, whatever that strange sort of alchemy is with a film that this one seemed to have in terms of its capacity to kind of just generate emotion in the person watching, which is obviously the sort of strongest connection you can make with something, is that kind of emotional connection. So things come at you all the time. I'm sure the others have had this experience as well. People contact me all the time about Room, or having just watched it and wanting to tell you what it meant to them, which is an amazing experience. And it all goes back to Emma's incredible book. But I think it's like Brie said, it's such like right from the beginning, this was territory that none of us had ever been in. And I didn't even know that there was such a thing as a kind of an awards run. My view was that, like, I was so naive. I thought you make a film and if it's very good, someone might give you a prize, I didn't sort of realize that there was a sort of a whole world around this, and people have to sort of decide, yes, we're going to sort of, this is our film for the year, whatever the distributor is, or, and then there's a whole sort of circuit of festivals and publicity that you go on. And really, it was that amazing feeling that it was just, as Brie said, it was continuing. You got a certain distance and then it sort of kept going. And in a way, in a different sort of way, that has continued since the kind of intense heat of that year passed. The film seems to find a new audience, with the passing years, and that audience has that same experience as the audience had in TIFF, in 2015.
I actually want to go back to the beginning because, Emma, I believe this was your first screenplay that you'd written, adapting your own book. And that was something that I so admire. You really wanted to do it yourself before you really went to Hollywood. Because I know there are lots of people who really wanted to make this into a movie. Can you talk a little bit about that decision and that process, and then picking Lenny as your director? Because you really had your say.
Well, it's funny, when I look back on it, I'm not proud of any particular bit of the writing. I'm proud that I said no to other overtures. And I'm proud that when Lenny wrote to me a remarkably un-Hollywood letter spelling out what he was going to do, it was full of specifics. He described particular shots that were already real in his mind's eye. I'm proud that I thought, whoa, this fellow's a genius. And it may have taken a while to agree on the details, but basically he was the only filmmaker I got excited about. I think realizing Lenny's genius was my main contribution to this.
Jesus. Can I have that in some kind of written form, Emma, please?
Anytime.
I mean, Lenny, you probably knew that you were competing with a lot of big directors. Did you think you really had a shot at this?
I mean, it was one of those very rare times where I had that feeling that if I didn't get to make this, something bad would happen to me physically, sort of such connection to it. But I was very anxious about it because I didn't, I think had I been Emma, I probably would have said no. To me, in that she had this novel that everybody absolutely adored. And she had, I know it coming from a small place like Ireland, we're from the same city. And, the dream growing up was always, so the ideal sort of the space of celebrity or of sort of world stage was always the States. That's where, you'd need to sort of make it if that was your sort of drive. And so she had really, with Room, it was this massive bestseller, and there were a lot of people after it. And then, I would have thought the last people you would want are myself and Ed Guiney, two sort of short, balding guys from the town you come from, saying, you know what, never mind all those sort of, fancy Californians, let us do it. And so all I could do really was just say, I said to Ed, I'm just going to write a letter, because that's the CV at that point. I'd made 2 small independent films at home, and I said, I'm certainly not going to, on paper, this is not going to be a compelling proposition, so I'll just have to tell her what I really, really think about it. And I did pour my sort of heart into that letter, and then I think I felt better, because I thought, well, at least I've said what I feel, and if it doesn't come, then I can't regret not having tried. So I salute Emma, because it was a brave thing to do, because I'm sure I know some of the people that were keen to make it, and that would be very hard to turn down.
And obviously the film hinges on the casting of your 2 leads. Bree and Jacob, how did you first become aware of the project? And can you talk about the process of landing the roles? I'm curious when you 2 met, if you had some sort of it sounds strange, but a chemistry read to play mother and son.
We did not have a chemistry read, which seemed insane to me. But I was like, why did you do that? And Lenny was like, it just makes perfect sense that the 2 of you would get along. And I was like, oh, okay. Which that's also a risk too, Lenny, that you did it that way. What was your experience like, Jake? I don't feel like we ever talked about it.
Yeah, it was because at that time, I didn't really understand the whole process, how my agent obviously got the audition. Well, not got the audition, but had the information, passed it down to us, and so we did I think it was I don't know if it was, I can't really remember, but we did an audition here in Vancouver, and then I went to LA, and where I met Lenny, and then we did another audition there. But also I feel like during pre-production, how Lenny pretty much taught me how to be a method actor. That's what I count, because he taught me. I learned how to I really became Jack because of the whole pre-production process. Because we remember we were playing our own
wasn't it? Because that was what was so amazing about it. I mean, first of all, you were already an actor, and the only thing I remember saying to you was, you kind of, all you need, you're able to sort of be yourself. And I remember I really remember that audition where, because I think you'd acted maybe a bit before you had, and probably in things where you needed to go outwards, and all we did was just maybe turn that down a bit and let you sort of do the thing. I remember you saying to me, God, this is kind of cool. I remember you sort of liking that, that you could sort of be yourself and just move it a little bit this way and a little bit that way. And it was kind of amazing.
And we were helping to craft and create the space, it was like we were making crafts out of things that they would have had in that space. And we were playing Lego, and we lived in apartments that you were just right 1 floor above me. And it was just, there was that time, that month we had ahead of time, I think is kind of what you're speaking to too, Jake, of having that time together where we really built trust, I feel like. And we built more trust as the film went on. But by the time we were filming, because the 2 of us have to be so comfortable together, we really were we were coworkers. We called each other coworker.
Yeah.
And Bree also, just to give Bree to center her where she really was in that, on set when Jake was such a young person, and Bree was, because Bree had become so close to Jake, it was like having a kind of right-hand woman there when we were making the film, because I think Bree was helping Jake a lot in sort of, really subtle and lovely ways that were just really helping me as well, so, and I think having Jake there, because he's such a gorgeous presence as well, it sort of stopped it being too dark. I don't know if you would agree with that, Bree, but it just kept us all sort of, it just centered us on keeping a healthy kind of creative relationship at the center of the whole thing.
All the way through. Jacob, you were just like the magic angel the whole way through. Because not only were we able to do like 10-page scenes together all the way through, all the lines memorized, like still to this day, like one of the most responsive and present actors I've ever worked with. But then we didn't stay stuck in it. We were doing heavy things that I was getting stuck in. We would do something really hard and it would be hard for me to shake it. You know, it was very cold in Toronto. So it just had this feeling of just like darkness. And I felt like I was turning into myself. I had no family nearby. I was just struggling sometimes to let go of the pain of what it was that we were making and the isolation I felt. But Jake was always like singing, poking at me. He would do, my thing that I remember the most was the planking. He would just get stiff and fall over and I'd have to catch him. And I remember the day that we were in the hospital and I was just a scene where I'm carrying him through the hospital. I remember being so tired and he just kept planking. And I realized how valuable it was for me, that it was keeping me in play, keeping me on my toes, keeping me present. It was like jumping in the cold pool constantly. And the other one I remember was when I see him in the police car when they've let me out and I see him and it's, you know, heartbreaking. One of the most heartbreaking things I've ever had to do in my life, fully blacked out, had no memory of the scene at all. But I do remember getting into the police car and closing the door and they yelled cut and he pushed me off and he was like, "Why did you act like that? You just saw me." And it was just these perfect moments where I was like, oh, it's pretend. And that sort of play and that mindset changed my life. And it lasted us through the entire Toronto Film Festival, the awards run that went with it. It was like I always had a pal that was just like never getting too into the scene, you know? It was just the best. So I'm so grateful to you, Jake, always. You've just...
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that you feel that way.
Yeah. Jacob, for you, what was the most challenging part of the shoot?
Well, I feel like I remember like I kind of like it's funny because I remember I didn't want to cry because I was like, no, I don't want to cry. That looks weird. But then I saw Bree crying in like one of the scenes and I was like, whoa, that looks really good. So I really wanted to do it. And then the scene where Bree's being carried out by the ambulance, that was like my first like crying scene in the movie, I think, because we like shot it in like order. So yeah, that was really. I think that was the hardest part probably.
Oh, sure. And I understand in addition to shooting in chronological order, you actually physically built this 10 by 10 room for the actors to perform in. That must have really helped with the performance. You didn't feel like you were on a set. Maybe in a way that was, you know, almost scary.
Yeah, that set. I remember like we were able to just go in there and we at the beginning of the movie there were those scenes where the camera's like in the middle of the room and me and Bree are doing like stretches and exercises and yeah, we were just really able to have fun at the beginning.
Getting to shoot in wonderful Toronto and of course having the festival there, it feels like a homecoming. I know you guys were intensely at work, but did you get to experience Toronto at all?
Yeah, we did a bit, and because Emma lives in London but knows Toronto, so we did. And you would visit, right? You came up quite a lot to set, and so I seem like I remember it was all very intense and really hard work, but it was a sort of happy, like a very good experience, the whole thing. And I do think Toronto is a very kind of a place that I like, and I really grew to like it a lot there. And we lived out sort of a lot by the lake and had you know, my family were there as well. And it felt like a real, I look back on that sort of phase on that city, which I'd been to before. I'd been to the festival many times, but it was the first time I got to live there. So I really, really loved it. And would go back. I mean, I've been back to the festival since, but I would love to spend more time there, because it's just a very civilized part of the world.
Emma, what was it like for you having, the story live in your brain for so long, and then coming to set and seeing the actual room and seeing Ma, like, was it strange? Was it exciting? Probably both.
The first day, just before filming, when Lenny and Ed, led me into the little room and shut the door, and I thought, no way could you live in this. This is ridiculous. Whoever made up this implausible story? Whoops, But they made it convincing. They made it believable. So no, it was a phenomenal experience for me. Actually, Lenny, all I remember about your Toronto life was that you got your bike caught in the streetcar tracks. And
I did. I nearly killed myself on the way in pre-production. My bike got caught I'd never cycled anywhere with trams. And my wheel got caught in the tram line. I ended up sort of sprawled across this intersection. Oh. But that is a good. I think I'd blotted that one out. But it's funny that what Emma says about the room size, though, because again, as a testament to her writing, we did this, myself and the designer Ethan Tobman, who's brilliant, and Danny Cohen, the cinematographer, equally brilliant. We gathered together early in pre-production, and we had always sort of secretly felt that we would have to cheat. We would have to make a bigger space to work in. We thought, well, we're obviously clearly not going to work in the crazy dimensions that Emma's written in the novel, because it's, never mind living there. You couldn't, it would look ridiculous. Nobody would believe, just like you said, Emma. And we got some, just bare walls and some strong blokes to help us wrangle them. And we got just some lenses, and we thought we'd experiment. And we started about twice the size. And you look through the lens and immediately know that there is no story to be told. You don't feel the constraint at all. Okay, you're going to, even if you spend the first half of the film in there, it just doesn't feel right. And so we kept moving the walls in until we ended up pretty much exactly the way it was written. And that was the point at which you thought, this is livable in some odd and extreme way, but any smaller is not, and any bigger does not feel like the right story. And so, again, a testament to that imagination, because we didn't believe that it would work, and it turned out to be pretty much exactly right.
Wow. Before we go, I just want to ask everyone, looking back on this from, pre-production to the release, to the Oscars, to the impact it continues to have today, is there a favorite moment you could pick during that whole journey?
I remember there's a lot of good moments that kind of just like, I just can't really remember like the one that really stood out, because there are just so many fun and amazing memories that I made.
What about when we were at the Oscars and it was like Star Wars and we got to see like R2-D2?
Yeah, that was really cool for an 8-year-old.
That's what I was thinking of. I was like, that just felt like it was like, how did we, like two huge Star Wars fans, end up at this fancy party? And it was just amazing. It was amazing. Yeah, when you say that, it's like I actually started to feel myself very emotional thinking of how many memories I have. That this experience from the very beginning, when I think about my audition to being in Toronto, to working with all of these beautiful people, plus a bunch of beautiful people that aren't on this call, and just the level of dedication we all had to making the thing and how hard we worked. We'd also do, I think it was Saturday night dinners every week where we would just blow off steam, and all the kids would play and stuff. That was always really nice too. And then the experience of it being shared with the world and out there. And like we were saying earlier, a lot of times when I meet people for the first time, they tell me their story about how the film impacted them and what it meant to them. And I'm starting to learn more and more how universal this story is, how many different types of stories I've heard since this film has been out. And so I'm just grateful. I feel a lot of gratitude when I think about my memories.
I remember trying to get myself a cup of coffee in the craft services truck my first day, a newbie on set. I couldn't work the machine, and this nice girl in Ugg boots fixed it for me. And then I realized that was Brie. I feel of star calm down, because where you may not know this, you were cast partly on character, because we were drawing up a list and Lenny said, okay, we're going to cut anyone who has any possibility of being a prima donna or a diva, because we're casting a small child at the heart of this, so the adults all have to be grown up. So it wasn't just your talent, it was partly your extreme niceness as a person that got you this role.
Lifelong babysitter, I love it.
And for me, I there's a couple. I do remember one of the funniest and strongest memories I have was being, I think it was like the governor's. There was a sort of pre-Oscars thing honoring people. It was great. It was interesting, and it was, and we were all sitting at these tables and sort of star spotting and things. And then Jake comes trotting up to me and goes, "Hey, I was just chatting with Will Smith and Johnny Depp. Do you want to come meet them?"
Remember that?
And I remember saying, Jake, I love you, but I am not going to be introduced by you and Johnny Depp. It was so funny. And then I think like watching, being at the end of that road and like knowing that Emma loved the film was a hugely important thing for all of us, I think. And then just watching Brie win, and that like just the work that went into her role, and the fact that she was so right, and that that was such a vindication of everybody's instinct, and just to see her go like the absolute like the sort of massive journey that she had gone on from the very beginning, working on the part, and when none of us were thinking of anything except the work, and then to see her sort of like be recognized for the work she did, that was particularly satisfying.
Well, I want to say thank you so much to all of the talent for joining us today to take a look back at 2015 People's Choice Award winner, Room, Brie Larson, Jacob Tremblay, Lenny Abramson, and Emma Donahue. Those of you tuning in from Canada who want to catch up with other People's Choice Award winners from past editions of the festivals can check out the Tiff's People's Choice collection on Bell Media's Crave. My name is Janelle Riley, and thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was brilliant, guys.